Hey everybody, today I want to show you how I photograph couples portraits at weddings. By the way, they're doing some construction work on the parking lot outside of our condo, so if you hear any weird construction sounds, I apologize. Hopefully it's minimal. But anyway, today I want to talk to you specifically about capturing couples portraits and sort of my process and philosophy when it comes to posing and directing and working with couples, particularly at weddings for wedding portraits. I remember when I was getting started in weddings that the portrait time was something I had a lot of anxiety about. It's one piece of the wedding that's very photo specific. You don't have a lot of time. You have to make important decisions sometimes pretty quickly. It requires a lot of skill. You don't want to overdo it with the couple. You don't want to make them uncomfortable. And these are the portraits, right? There's a lot of pressure to it as well. And you're the one that's making all of the artistic decisions. You're the one that's directing, you're making the choices. A lot of the wedding can feel like very documentary, which for me is, there's not as much necessarily pressure for me. Like some people might think of the ceremony as more pressure, got to get the kiss, got to get those moments. But for me, in a documentary setting, it can sometimes be easier than in a setting where you're sort of leading what's happening. And that's what a portrait session is. It's a session with the photographer where it's photo specific, we're leading what's happening. So how can we walk into portrait sessions feeling confident and comfortable, and how can we give our client a good experience? So in order to share my sort of feelings about this, I want to bring you into a gallery from a wedding we photographed last year up in San Luis Obispo. I really loved this wedding. It was one of my favorites of the year. Such a great couple, great fashion. I actually liked the venue as well. There's like lots of good opportunities for photos. We're going to start with their first look in portraits. So I love at weddings when we have a good chunk of time for their first look, where we can have their first look and then move into some couples portraits immediately after. It's this really nice part of the day. It feels relaxed. It's before guests arrive and the couple's like sort of fresh. They've just seen each other. There's a lot of emotion and good energy moving into their wedding day. All right, so I kind of have now stopped doing the groom back turned kind of thing with the first look. I kind of just have them like walk to each other. So if this were now, I would have just had him facing her and had her walk up to him to have their moment. There's no like sort of shoulder tapping or anything like that. And I did shoot film and digital at this wedding. And for this particular folder, I split up the digital and the film photos. So today we're just gonna look at the film scans because those are my favorites. This is kind of like pre-first look. I actually like this photo. It's kind of just like, I don't know, you get like the symbolism of the first look, which is kind of fun. But like I said, I probably wouldn't do it like this these days. This is right after they see each other. They have this great moment. And then we kind of move into portraits. And every situation is different. Sometimes couples are more comfortable with each other. Sometimes they're more comfortable in front of the camera. This couple was really comfortable in front of the camera, comfortable with each other, being affectionate with each other, with us, which was nice. I think my direction here would have been to just face each other and hold hands low between you. My directions are sort of just that, directional based. I'm never like really like placing them specifically, like move your arm an inch this way and do this and do this and do this. It's more, okay guys, face each other, hold hands between you and pull each other close. That's something that I say a lot. For this kind of photo, I like capturing them in their environment. And usually if they're holding hands between them and they're pulling each other close, it kind of gets them to have this like sweet moment with each other. And so I like that prompt. And then I usually move from there into having them just arm around each other, look at me, and smile. And I usually get them smiling with teeth and smiling without teeth. And then after I get this kind of like classic portrait, which I usually do at the beginning of the portrait session, I'll just say, hold hands and walk towards me, look at each other. Movement is something that we can really use to our advantage, especially if the couple is less comfortable in front of the camera. So one of the first things I start with after getting that classic portrait is movement. Sometimes I'll even start with movement first. And it's very simple. All you need is for them to hold hands and walk towards you, looking at each other. I tell them, don't look at me, look at each other, look out at the view, really enjoy this, have fun with each other. You can sort of level this up by asking the groom to have his free hand in a pant pocket. It sort of like makes it feel more elegant somehow. I don't know. Once they get close to me, I'll say, pull each other in for a kiss. So again, it's very directional. hold hands walking towards me. As they walk, I'll say, look at each other. And then as they get close to me, I say, pull each other in for a kiss. It's really like an organic thing, but I sort of like give them direction as this is happening, and it's never overbearing. It's just sort of simple directions like look at each other, look at the view, pull each other close, go in for a kiss. And then sometimes after they go in for a kiss, they're closer. I'll have the bride look at me. I'll ask the groom to kind of nuzzle into her temple or kiss her cheek or her shoulder. These create nice photos as well. And then I'll have them look at me again, bring your heads together and look at me. And then I like to pull them aside for portraits, so individual shots. And I always love to get full body and half body. And I'll just have them look at me and look away. For the bride, I'll have her kind of like shift her weight slightly, hold her flowers maybe. Groom, I'll usually have hands in pockets like this and have him look away and look to me. And then we kind of follow this like same sort of direction, but we just place them in different places. So here we found this great open shade on the grass under this tree, and I just had them facing each other again and then facing me. This is another great one, and I'll tell her to like put your back in his chest. The bride is in front of the groom, and then they can kind of cozy up together. I don't like this to feel like prom pose, so usually I don't have him like wrap his arms around her. I want it to feel natural, and if it starts to feel too like forced or posed, I'll give them some sort of direction, like you can just like hold her arms and pull her close to you or rub her arms or something like that, just to help it feel a little bit more candid and natural. This is an example of like my Vogue cover shot kind of photo where I found this great sunlight for them. I loved this spot because the light was hitting that like section, and then the trees behind them are dark, and so it's like a spotlight on them. And I really like this kind of dramatic lighting, especially for film. And so for this, it's just simple, you know, look at me holding hands between you and be serious, you know, something like that. And I'll even tell them like, think of album cover or think of Vogue cover. So they kind of get the idea. And again, groom hand in pant pocket kind of elevates it. Bouquet's not up, it's down at her side, which I think makes this less traditional wedding photo and gives it a little bit more edge, maybe fits this kind of lighting scenario more. And then as you can see, I have one where they're looking at me and then one where they're looking away. Just keeping it very simple. Full body, half body, different angles. Maybe some are lower. This one was an example of like a lower half body shot that worked really well. And then I even got one on the Holga just because it was such a cool scene with the light. And again, having them walk. Don't forget, as you're moving through spaces, that you can use this as an opportunity to get more photos. So here we are walking to the next portrait spot. It's still a great photo. And then, you know, you have them walking away, and then I just told them to look back at me, to pause and look back at me. You can have them pause and look at each other, pause and go for a kiss. So think about like movement, and then at certain places when they get in good light, asking them to pause, look at each other, look at you, or kiss, or something like that. And then just more examples of walking. And then another classic portrait example in a new location. Look at me, look at each other. Similar thing here, look at each other, look at me. And then here's an example of the, you know, put your back in his chest that we were talking about. Almost getting a little prom posy, but they're still cute. So I really like this. Like this, I like sometimes to tell the groom, you know, I'll tell them go in for a kiss, and then I'll ask him, bring your hand up to her chin and pull her in for a kiss. And I think this is similar to like hand in pant pocket. It's like a small thing that will sort of elevate the photo, so his arm's not just like dangling at the side. And not everybody kisses like that, so sometimes it doesn't necessarily work, but a lot of the time it looks really good, and it sort of helps the photo. Okay, let's move into the sunset photo session. So it's going to be a lot of similar kind of ideas, but I think for sunset we're a little bit more loose. We've had the big emotional kind of like climax of the day. Maybe they've had a drink, they've had a little bit to eat. And so now we can kind of like really feel like free, relaxed, lots of movement with each other. And by the way, one thing I wanted to just tell you is before you take them for portraits, it's a good idea to have a plan. Okay. So once you get to the venue, scope it out. Look at lighting. If you have the Sunseeker app, you can sort of determine where the light is going to be later in the day. When is the sun going to set at that particular venue on that particular day? And make a plan for like where you think you want to take them for portraits. Like make a sort of like a roadmap for it. So like for the first look, for example, I knew where I wanted to do the first look, and I knew that I would take them around the property to all those various spots that we did photos at. So when I was doing the session, it wasn't just like a surprise for me where I was going to take them. Same with sunset. Like we knew we wanted to do sunset on the lawn, and then there was another part of the property we wanted to take them that was separate from where we did portraits in the morning. And I knew where the sun was going to set and where it was going to be, because I have my Sunseeker app and I kind of looked at that in advance. And then of course, like when it's actually sunset time, you can go and take another look and just see if your plan is still going to work before you pull them. But I think having a plan and a roadmap for where to do portraits is one of the biggest steps in like feeling comfortable with portrait sessions, because you come at it feeling prepared, like you know exactly what you want to do. So it's not like, oh gosh, what do I do now? Where do I take them now? So anyway, so we were taking them in this field. And so we were walking all the way to the end of the field where the light was. Basically, for sunset portraits, it's all about light. So I'm always looking for light. And so I wanted to take them to the edge of this field. If we open up this photo, you can see most of it's in shade. But here at the end of the field, we've got some great sun coming through. So we had just had them walk, and again, you know, using this opportunity to stop in beautiful light, you know, sort of the light coming through the trees in the center of the field here. Photos on the contacts, which are always so beautiful. So we did like this little session here mid-field, kind of missed focus on a lot of these, but I still felt like it was kind of pretty with the medium format film. Another classic shot of them looking at each other, holding hands low between them, kind of wider, which is kind of fun. Even wider for this. I think I was on my 28mm on the Leica for this. And I also love these kind of leading shots here. So like I said, like more movement here. So I just have one of them leaving space between them, looking at each other. So it's a different kind of walking shot, more of a side angle shot, a leading shot versus them walking towards you or away from you. But it's also movement. You can use this to your advantage. This one actually is like one of my favorites from that. Sometimes they don't always work, but I like this kind of tighter shot where you still get a sense of what's happening. Okay, and then we finally made it to the golden light here. And again, on the Leica, I just put in a roll. This is again the 28mm. Pretty cool photo here. Another one here. Yeah, this collection of photos was great. Really successful, I think, just in this light. So it's kind of like simple direction again, like we were playing with her veil, but basically I think my direction is just be close, have a moment with each other is something that I say a lot, especially at sunset time. Like for this, you know, I might say pull each other close, wrap your arms around his neck, and just have a moment with each other. Because now they're kind of looser, they're more comfortable. And so if you tell them just have a moment with each other, it often yields really successful results. So just more photos here in this beautiful light. And then we walk away, again, capturing photos as we walk away. This was another one that I really liked. It's okay to cut off parts of them for some photos to you know, have specific subjects, like for this, just them holding hands, which is kind of cool. And then we brought them over to the other side of the venue, which there's this beautiful light hitting there with some olive trees behind them. And I got these great shots on the contacts. So as you can see, these are just kind of like natural feeling photos, and a lot of it was just them. But this is another example of like having your arms around each other. But for this, you know, we have her bring her left hand up to his chest and just have a moment with each other, facing away from us, you know, facing the light, facing the camera. Here's another kiss photo where we have his hand in his pant pocket, the light behind them, and then I just have their arms around each other looking away. And then I have her look to me, again, hand on chest to get that ring detail, look at each other. This is a nice example of getting both rings in a photo without it feeling forced or posed or tired or, you know, cliche. So I really like this, where they literally just have their arms around each other and look at each other. And then I have the groom look at me, and then again, some portraits. So you can see it's a lot of like similar sort of direction, and it's, like I said, very directional. Okay, so I hope that gives you a sense of how I approach sunset portraits. A couple of things to think about to help you feel more confident when you're posing couples is, number one, show up with a plan. So go to the venue early, check it out, think about the light, and develop a roadmap for where you want to take your couple for couples portraits. And think about specific places that you want static photos of them to be, and then sort of the path between those places. And we can capture photos as we move between each of the places that you've predetermined. And I typically like to think about where I can have them for first look and then a separate place for sunset photos if the venue is big enough and has enough options. And then when we're actually working with a couple, remember that we want them to have a good experience, we want them to feel comfortable, and we want them to have fun. And so a lot of the way I think about it is just directional. It's getting them to move, getting them to interact with each other, giving them positive feedback. If you're enjoying the photos, you can tell them that they look amazing. I typically avoid showing them photos on the back of the screen, and I just like to give them little prompts like, oh, beautiful, great, amazing. And I think as long as I'm confident with my direction, if I'm sort of efficient with the timing as well, then they'll feel more confident and be more relaxed. So you could start by having them hold hands and walk towards you and walk away from you. Have them look at each other, look at the view, pull each other close. You can tell them have a moment with each other. And with portraits too, I think it's also important to like know when you've got it. And so we're not sort of taking too much of their time on the wedding day. I mean, lots of couples love taking couples portraits, but I sort of err on the side of once I've got it, we're good, because I don't want to keep them for longer than I need to. So usually portrait sessions, maybe we'll have like 30 minutes for first look and portraits in the morning, which is like a luxury if we get that much time. And then for sunset, maybe it's like 10 to 15 minutes of portraits. So that's why it's important to have a plan and a roadmap before you go into it, just so you can utilize your time really efficiently. Okay, I hope this video was helpful. It's not really a behind the scenes tutorial, but I hope like looking at these photos and talking about them have taught you something about this. If you have questions, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to answer them here. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you enjoyed this video, if it taught you something, please give it a like. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.